Hello everyone, my name is Abhishek and welcome back to my channel. I'm sure many of you must be learning DevOps at this point of time, but have you ever wondered if you join an organization as a DevOps engineer, what would be your day-to-day tasks or where would you get the requirements from? In today's video, I'm going to explain everything that is required. So to explain this, I will cover multiple topics in today's video. The first one is going to be what are different roles in an organization. Now, this is very important because as a DevOps engineer, you do not directly interact with the customers. You do not talk to the clients. So you don't directly get the requirements from them. There are many other people within the organization, or there are many other roles within the organization which get the requirements for you and they try to break down those requirements as your task. So that's why we need to understand what are different roles in an organization, and this will greatly help you within your interviews as well. Now, once we understand this, I will also provide a very quick synopsis of what exactly each and every role does. And then we will focus a bit on software development lifecycle because software development lifecycle is very important for anything that you do in IT. Of course, I did a detailed video on SDLC before, but still it is relevant for today's video and I will make it extremely simple and tell you how a DevOps engineer fits in SDLC. Finally, we will also explore a very popular project management tool that is Jira. Now, why do we need this? We need this because end of the day, the entire project management is done in software systems like Jira. There are alternatives as well, but Jira is very popular. So we will try to understand how to create an account with Jira so that you can also use Jira. Then I will explain you how the requirements are put in Jira by other roles and how you get the day-to-day tasks and how you can see the day-to-day tasks, how you can update your day-to-day task progress to your project manager or maybe to other peers in your organization. And we will see completion status, updation status, everything that you do within your organization. So by watching this video, you will get a feel of how a DevOps engineer works in an organization. So just make sure you watch it till the end. Perfect. So let's start with taking a example organization. So we will just assume that you got placed as a DevOps engineer within Amazon. Now, whenever I say that you got placed as DevOps engineer within an organization, one thing to understand within an organization, there are multiple projects. Although your offer letter might be from Amazon, but within Amazon, they have Amazon Fresh, right? They have Amazon Prime. So these are different projects or verticals within Amazon, right? They also have Amazon e-commerce, Amazon home services. So you got placed with Amazon, but you might end up working in one of the projects. Let's assume you got opportunity to work with Amazon Fresh. And let's assume there are multiple other DevOps engineers, and you will be one of the DevOps engineers working with Amazon Fresh. By making this assumption, let's try to understand what are the different roles, and we will also understand software development lifecycle. So for today's video, this is the assumption that we are going to make. Perfect. Now let's try to understand what can be different roles within Amazon Fresh, right? Of course, the same roles will be across different projects of the company, but we will take one example to understand the requirements. So we will start with top to bottom. For any business, what is the most important thing? The most important thing for any business is the customers. Imagine Amazon Fresh does not have any customer. Instantly, you will see Amazon with an announcement saying, we don't have customers using Amazon Fresh. So we are going to discontinue this product or we are going to discontinue this application. right? So it is always important for any business to gather the feedback from the customers. It can be good feedback, it can be bad feedback. And most of the times, customers are the ones from where businesses get the requirements, right? Of course, business also drives requirements by looking at competitors, by understanding the market. But most of the times, businesses get the requirements from customers. Let's say one of the customers of Amazon Fresh, which can be a company or it can be a group of people, they have shared a feedback that it would be great if Amazon Fresh can deliver groceries within 15 minutes across all the zip codes or across all the pin codes. And you know, it is really a great idea because if Amazon Fresh can do it, probably it can beat all the other competitors and it can reach wide range of audience. But whom will the customers share this feedback to? There should be someone within the business or there should be someone within the software engineering as well. So there is someone called as business analyst. So business analysts are not completely at the software engineering side. They also interact with Amazon Fresh business. That is basically the marketing people, sales people, and they also interact with the customers. So business analyst is the one who interacts with customers and gets the requirements. So one of these requirement, business analysts really liked it. So what business analysts do, they prepare something called as a BRD document. Abhishek, do I need to know all this as a DevOps engineer? If you're working in an organization, you should definitely understand at a high level. You don't need to understand how business analyst writes this BRD document. You don't need to understand how business analysts set up calls with these customers, but at least you need to know how the entire software development lifecycle works. Okay, so assume this is one cool idea, 15 minutes grocery delivery service. Business analyst prepared a BRD. Similarly, business analyst prepared BRD for another requirement from the customer. Let's say another requirement is that, you know, Amazon Fresh payment gateway. So one of the customers said, how about adding UPI as a payment gateway? Or maybe how about adding Stripe as a payment gateway? Right? Again, business analyst said, okay, it can be a great idea. Probably competitors are not supporting it, so we can give it a try. And business analyst prepares BRD document for that as well. Now, who is going to prioritize these documents or who is going to prioritize these items? So there is a designated role in the organization, which is product manager. So what does a product manager do? Product manager interacts with the business analyst, gets all the requirements from the business analyst, but prioritizes them according to the product and also sometimes according to the skill within the organization or the capability of the organization. Anyways, PM prioritizes the requirement. Probably PM says that, okay, um, you know, I really like this BRD for 15 minutes grocery delivery service. So I will ask the team to complete this in Jan, Feb, or maybe Q1. Now, PM is not completely technical. So PM can prioritize the items, but end of the day, this should be implemented by the developers, right? Of course, PM do not directly interact with the developers, but PM interacts with product owner, which is also called PO. So what does a product owner do? So product owner deep dive little bit more technical and takes this requirement that 15 minutes grocery delivery service and breaks them down into actionable items. And these actionable items are usually called as epics. Some people also call it as features and further they break down into epics. But for the purpose of simplicity, understand product owner takes the requirement from PM and breaks that down into the actionable item. What is an actionable item? Actionable item is nothing but says that, okay, probably a UI is required for it, probably a particular backend implementation is required for it, probably a particular DB setup is important for it. And once all of these things are done, only then I will mark this particular requirement as done. So for each of this actionable item is usually called as epic. So product owner takes the requirement from PM and breaks that down into actionable items, which are usually called as epics. Okay, then product owner directly interacts with solution architects. Most of the times, product owner do not directly interact with the developers. Of course, PO is accessible, but major interaction of PO is with solutions architect or software architect, because software architect really deeps dive into technical part of this requirement. All that PO says is, okay, this might be required, this might be required, this might be required, and for that, these are the actionable items. But PO interacts with solutions architect to confirm that, and also solutions architect defines a LLD or HLD for it, low level design and high level design implementation for the requirement. And also a lot of times, PM might commit this particular thing, talks to PO that, hey, I'm thinking of getting this done in January and February. PO interacts with solutions architect, and solution architects might come back and say, right now we don't have skill for it, or for the payment gateway, let's say, we don't have person who can do it, we don't have the expertise. Then this communication goes back to PM, and PM might also deprioritize the item. Overall, just remember, there are four parties: business analyst, product manager, product owner, solutions architect, where BA, PM, and PO are not very technical, but solutions architect is the technical person. What does business analyst, product manager, product owner do? So they help in taking the requirements, fine tuning the requirements, and breaking down that requirements into actionable items. Then it comes to the software architect or solutions architect to prepare a low level design and high level design implementation for the developers. And this is where the actual game starts if you are a DevOps engineer. Now, who will take this requirement? So this requirement is taken care by the development teams. So let's say there is a development lead. Just for example, there is a development lead, got this requirement from solutions architect, got the low level design, got the high level design. Now the development team says that, okay, to complete this entire thing, we might need some infra. We might need a Kubernetes cluster. We might need, strong expertise with Docker. So somebody who can write Docker files for us. We need a couple of Git repositories. All of these operations, right? Developer looks at the requirement, or multiple developers look at the requirement. In our case, 15 minutes grocery delivery service, or maybe a new payment gateway implementation. And these developers says we need these operations, or we need infrastructure, Kubernetes cluster, Docker file help, Git repository. Only then we can complete this task. And these are performed by DevOps engineers. So see how interesting it is. DevOps engineers do not directly get the requirement, but requirement comes from various levels. Finally, it reaches the developers, and from developers, DevOps engineers get the requirement, or maybe solution architect as well, right? It's in the same way that, while developers are performing these tasks, or while developer is working on developing this feature, QA engineers work on testing the task or testing the requirement. Similarly, a database administrator might set up a database and administer the database. Or database is set up by DevOps engineers. Administration is taken care by the DBAs. Now, everything is done. The product is also live. All the epics that are created by PO, or all the actionable items that are created by PO, are completed by developers with the help of QE and DevOps engineers. Usually, they are one team. So within a company, there are usually teams, right? So you say that I work for X team, I work for Y team. What does that team mean? So usually BAs, PMs, POs, and solution architects, they are also part of the team, but they are passive part of the team. They might work with multiple other teams as well, right? But one of the development teams or one of the Scrum teams, when we get more into Jira, you will understand this. But assume this term, understand this term called Scrum, where within a Scrum team, you usually have developers, DevOps engineers, QE engineers, database administrator, all of them together work to complete the requirement. Because as a DevOps engineer, you cannot complete the requirement on your own. Or as a developer, you cannot complete the requirement on your own. All of these parties have to work together. Only then the requirement is done. Perfect. Now, once this entire thing is done, once the product is live, then SRE engineers come into picture, because SRE engineers are usually responsible for checking the reliability of the feature, availability of the feature. They might create some dashboards, they create some metrics, and if something goes wrong, they create notifiers to notify the development team or the required party, right? So this is how all the teams within an organization or all the different roles within an organization work to complete the requirement. Abhishek, there is also something called technical writer. So technical writers are usually people who document this entire thing. I'll give you a basic example. Take example of Kubernetes. Imagine Kubernetes came up with a new feature, right? Or imagine Android came up with a new feature. And what if Android do not document the information, right? So today, if you go to a latest version of Android, you know what are the things that you get in the latest version. So these things are documented by the technical writers. What if Android do not document that information? You will never know what is that feature, how that feature works, if you add that feature to your mobile or if you enable that feature. No, is it going to help you in any way, or you can completely ignore that feature? So technical writers are the ones who take care of writing or documenting this particular thing. Again, they are also part of a development team, or sometimes they are outside the team because they work for various Scrum teams at once. Clear? So this is how the entire requirement flow looks like. I've also, tried to make it easy for you. So I have provided one-liner synopsis. I'll try to put this in the description, but you can also take a screenshot at this point of time if you're interested. So just as a synopsis, I'll quickly repeat this entire thing. Of course, I'm not going to explain everything in detail, but just a very quick synopsis. You have customers. From customers, business analysts are the one who are going to get the requirements, or to put it in a better way, business analysts interact with the customers and they get the requirements. What do they do once they get the requirements? They are going to create something called as BRD document. Now it comes to product managers. So product managers define the vision and they define the priority of the items. So PM might say, out of payment gateway requirement and 15 minutes Amazon Fresh grocery delivery requirement, I believe, because PM has more idea of the product, and PM also usually looks at various other products, how they are doing. If let's say there is a company called XYZ is competitor of Amazon Fresh. So PM also looks at XYZ, tries to understand, okay, where are they? What are they implementing? Can we, you know, kind of steal a feature from them? So PM says out of the payment gateway and 15 minutes delivery service, quick delivery service, I really like it. So PM says, okay, we will go with it in Q1, that is in Jan, February, and March. And PM communicates this information to product owner. Product owner tries to go more in depth of it from product point of view, right? From product side. And PO says, okay, these are the things that we need to complete to achieve this or to mark this as done. Same is available here as well. Product owner manages the backlog, converts vision into actionable items or actionable stories. Great. And then the requirement goes to solutions architect, software architect, design technical system structure and frameworks. That is HLD and LLD. Then there is a team. There is a whole team which is working together to complete this task. This particular team is usually called as a Scrum team. So what does this Scrum team do? It is part of developers, DevOps engineers, QA engineers, database administrator, if required, a technical writer. All of them together are going to decide how the requirement can be completed. But majorly, this is driven by a development team or a group of developers. Because once group of developers analyze that, okay, I need to complete these tasks. For that, I need a particular framework. I need a particular database. I need few resources on AWS. I need some infrastructure for it. From there, development team is going to get the requirements or they are going to get the day-to-day tasks. From there, QA engineers are going to get the day-to-day tasks, right? Similarly, technical writers are also going to get the day-to-day tasks. Now, I hope it is clear. And if you understand this, software development lifecycle is a piece of cake, right? Because what we learned here is basically software development lifecycle. But we went detail into it instead of discussing at a high level that there is a planning stage, there is analysis stage, there is design, implementation. We further went deep into it to understand what exactly happens in each of the stage. So that's where when you see this diagram, it looks very simple, but in real time, software development lifecycle is very, very complex. There are so many parties, that is, there are so many roles. From each role, the requirement comes to the other role. And a simple requirement from the customer takes months together because of all of these parties. I mean, in a positive way. From the customer, the requirement looks very simple, but as each and every role gets technical into it, the requirement becomes very complex and multiple engineers in the company are needed to work on it. Okay. So in a nutshell, software development lifecycle has these phases. The first phase is the planning phase where requirements are taken. Then there is analysis phase where the requirements are analyzed. Is it possible to complete this requirement? Is it a good requirement? Is it important for the organization or can we do it later? Then the design phase, solutions architect takes care of HLD, LLD. Implementation, developers, DevOps engineers, QA engineers, everybody are going to work in the implementation phase. Testing and integration. Finally, maintenance, which is taken care by SRE engineers mostly. Now, Abhishek, is this the only thing that DevOps engineers do? Right? Will DevOps engineers only take the requirements from developers and create the required things for the developers? No. Now that is where I have this slide as well for today's video. On top of that, what DevOps engineers also do, they try to identify the gaps in software development lifecycle, or they try to see where the software development lifecycle, if this entire thing that we discussed, if it is going to take 3 months from Jan to March, a DevOps engineer tries to understand how this can be completed in 2 months, right? Of course, at this level, DevOps engineer cannot do a lot of things when it comes to BA phase, PM, PO. But from this phase, where the requirement comes into the development team or the Scrum team, DevOps engineer tries to identify how this can be completed fast. For example, QE is working manually on testing the dev tasks, or they have written some automation scripts. Now, DevOps engineer can put that in a CI/CD pipeline. If you don't know what is CI/CD, that's okay. You can watch the videos on the channel where I've clearly explained. But DevOps engineer tries to create an automation to unify the efforts of dev plus QE, right? So that whenever developer makes a change, the tests written by QE are automatically executed. This is run as part of a pipeline, which is usually called as CI/CD. Also, DevOps engineer tries to look at the security, integrate security into the pipeline. All of this is apart from working on the requirements from the developers. Developers requirement can be infrastructure creation, Kubernetes cluster creation, but this is outside to improve the efficiency of the organization or to improve the efficiency of the software development lifecycle. Perfect. Now that this is clear, let's proceed with project management. Where are we going to perform all of these activities? There should be a platform, right? So we have been talking that, okay, PM talks to PO, PO talks to SA, SA talks to developers, but how can management track Amazon as a company or Amazon Fresh as a uh, project? If somebody wants to understand what is the status of a particular thing, how would someone know that a DevOps engineer somewhere in this entire ladder is working on creating a Kubernetes cluster? Or how would someone know that QA engineer is working on a particular thing? And if this Kubernetes cluster creation is blocked for some reason, because of budget issue or because of the VPC issues or because of lack of expertise, if this particular thing is blocked, developers are blocked. If developers are blocked, the requirement is blocked. Then PA has to tell that to BA. BA has to tell that to the customers. Overall, everyone is interconnected, right? All of them are interconnected. A simple Kubernetes cluster creation, which is blocked for some reason, DevOps engineer is working on it for last 3 weeks. Now, this will impact the entire organization. And this has to be notified across multiple layers, stakeholders, and finally to the customer. So there has to be a platform where the work is completely visible. For the management, they need to know who is accountable for something, where is somebody blocked, where is someone working very fast, so that they can appreciate, they can take the feedback. And that is where Jira as a project management tool evolved. Of course, there are other tools. Just like Jira, there are other softwares as well. But Jira is a very popular one and it's used in most of the organizations. We will see how to create a free account with Jira. They support a cloud offering where you can create a free account and you can also practice later once watching this video. So we will create a free account with Jira. Then I will try to create organization in Jira, something like Amazon. Then I'll create a project in Jira, something like Amazon Fresh. And as a PO, just I'll try to create an epic, right? Then I'll create some stories. Then I'll show you how DevOps engineers are assigned with these stories, right? So we will see all of this on the Jira platform. Again, it's going to be interesting. I really recommend you to go ahead and try it. This will help you during your interviews. This experience on working with Jira, understanding this entire thing, you can communicate better during your interviews. It will also make you more confident, right? So let's head to the Jira part now. So just take a new tab and search for Jira Cloud Login. And you just need to create an account with Atlassian. So once you just click on this, it will ask you to sign up using your Google account. So just provide your Google account and you have an account created with Atlassian. So you can access all the Atlassian services such as Jira, Confluence. I'll go with Jira. Now it's very simple. The same account with which you created Atlassian account. So you can use that as your work email. Although it says work email, you can still go ahead and use your Google account. So perfect. I use my Google account and I will call this site name as Amazon Demo Veeramalla. Okay, so I'll just call this as, I cannot use Amazon because obviously it might have been used. So Amazon Demo Veeramalla is name of my organization. To be honest, in real time, you won't be creating this because Jira licensing and creating a Jira account is taken care by your management. But anyways, for our demo purpose, we need this account. So you can select any of these options and click on the continue button. So right now what we have done, we have just set up a Jira organization. Now it's time to set up our project in the organization. So I'll choose Amazon Fresh. Perfect. Click on next and within few minutes, you will have your Jira organization as well as your Jira board set up. Now, what do we do in this? Right? Okay. Now that we have created this account as well as project, so we will start with our usual workflow. So what I explained you during the theory part. So product owner is going to create epic for us, and within the epic, or developers are going to take this epic and they are going to break this down into stories. Okay. So let's see how is it done. So first of all, product owner comes to this board, clicks on the create button. Let me just maximize it. And in the work type, product owners usually create epics. So what is the epic? 15 minutes delivery service, right? Of course, that can be elaborated, but 15 minutes delivery service is the epic. In this, product owner defines the epic. As I told you, product owner writes the acceptance criteria or definition of done. In a nutshell, defines the epic. For example, to mark this epic as done, following things needs to be completed, right? For example, one of the items that needs to be complete is maybe add feature in the mobile app with a good interactive UI. Another thing can be provide an option to the customer to disable 15-minute service anytime. This can be because that 15 minutes delivery service might not be available in the customer's zip code area, or maybe it is costing more for the customer. So they should have an option to disable it. Similarly, enable 15 minutes service in the desktop application. So product owner will define such things. And once these things are completed by the development team or completed by the Scrum team, then this epic can be marked as done. Till then, it will be in the to do, then it will be in progress, in review, finally the done state. Again, why are we doing this? Why are we creating this Jira epic? Because management can use it as a point of tracking the work. Somebody at the high level in the management, maybe your VP or maybe the director, how will they know what is the current status of the epic? They can simply come to the Jira board, they can look at this epic, and they can track the current status of this epic. So you need to change it from in progress, in review to done. When I say you, it should be the person working on this epic. Now, how will, as a DevOps engineer, you get the work? Now, this is important, right? So what happens in the Scrum method? So I told you, we follow something called Scrum. So Scrum is a methodology in Agile, right? Within Agile, a framework called Scrum is followed where teams work in sprints. So I'll explain this in a very simple way. So Scrum is basically referred to as a Scrum team, or it's a framework in general. And within this, sprints are followed. What is sprints? Sprints are nothing but 2 weeks or 3 weeks work tracked as part of sprint. For example, as part of your Amazon Fresh project team, Every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks, you define we are going to complete these activities. Okay. And by the end of this 3 weeks, you will conduct a sprint retrospective meeting where you can track how much percentage of work is done and how much percentage of work is left over. This is also a way for management to track your team's effort, or to track your team's work. So you have committed to 100 percentage of items, maybe some 10 items, but you were only able to deliver 6 items by the end of 3 weeks. This is together. I mean, this is dev team, QA team, DevOps engineer team together, right? Sometimes it can be only dev team, only QA team, only DevOps team, but in general, all of them work in a sprint. And within the sprint, you start with sprint planning, where you plan 2 to 3 weeks of activities. And by the end of the sprint, as a Scrum team, you perform a sprint retrospective where you can track how much amount of work is done, right? So as part of this sprint planning, every 2 3 weeks, the Scrum team meets and they will look at the backlog, right? If we go back to our Jira board, so every 2 to 3 weeks, all the team members meet, they go through the backlog. If I just refresh, right? So there is one epic that was created, and this epic will be looked at by the development team, all the Scrum team, and they will create small stories in it, right? The epic will be broken down into stories, right? One of the developers, maybe dev lead, creates a story. I'll just create one development story first, probably something like identify the framework required to implement, let's say, mobile advanced user interface. Okay, so this is one story that developer creates according to the epic, and this story will be made as part of the epic. So in the parent, they will just select 15 minutes delivery service, and it will be marked as done. Now this will be assigned to one of the developers, right? Right now it is in backlog. Once the sprint is started, they will take this into the sprint and it will be assigned to one of the developers. Now, while they are discussing this, one of the developers says, right, okay, if I have to create this mobile application, I need a Kubernetes cluster. So during the sprint planning, or even before the sprint planning, when this epic comes into discussion, right, a story is created, Kubernetes cluster creation using Terraform. Or maybe just they'll say, create a Kubernetes cluster. Now, this will be assigned to the DevOps engineer. So this is how work comes to the DevOps engineer. So initially, the requirement was only with business analyst, but then it came to development team. And while development team and the whole Scrum team are planning for the next 2 to 3 weeks of work, that is when one of the developers says, okay, I might need a Kubernetes cluster. Now, if the DevOps engineer has bandwidth during this sprint, yeah, it will be taken up during the next 2 to 3 weeks. If DevOps engineers are already occupied, then this item will remain in the backlog. Now, in the next 2 to 3 weeks or after that, this item will be picked up by the DevOps engineers, right? So backlog keeps on creating because product owner keeps on creating the epics. Product owner keeps on getting requirements from the customers. As those epics are created, backlog is populated. As the backlog is populated, DevOps engineers keep getting the work, right? So this time, DevOps engineer are assigned or got a work for creating Kubernetes cluster. Maybe while discussing other epics, right? One of the story was to create mobile user interface. Similarly, other story may be to create a desktop user interface for 15 minutes delivery. And while doing this, one of the developer said, okay, we need AWS RDS for it. So AWS RDS creation will become another story, and this will also go to the backlog, right? And similarly, if DevOps engineer has the bandwidth, we'll take up this or we'll take up in the next sprint. So this way, backlog refinement is done, right? So backlog refinement is a continuous activity where new stories keep coming. They go to the backlog. If DevOps engineer has time, they will take it. Otherwise, they will spill over. Now, I'm not going into the agile. I'm not going in depth of the agile because it's a huge concept and different companies follow different methodologies. Some people follow Scrum, some people follow Kanban. So, it becomes too much out of context of this video. But I wanted to tell you this is how Jira is used. And as a DevOps engineer, it is your responsibility. Let's say you're working on this particular task. So you will just go into particular task, right? And you will keep updating the comment section. Today, if you're working on Kubernetes cluster creation, right, you can say what is your status for today. Tomorrow, you can update the status again. So this way, your Jira Kubernetes cluster creation is tracked by the entire management, or at least by your Scrum team, right? So this is how Jira is used. I would highly recommend to explore Jira because once you get to your organization, you will keep following Jira dashboards, you will keep using it on day-to-day basis. One good resource Atlassian provides is Learn Jira in 5 minutes. So just if you scroll down, you will find this section, Learn Jira in 5 minutes. So you can take the examples provided by Atlassian and understand it to some extent. If you have any questions related to this, I would be more than happy to help you. Please post the questions in the comment section, or I'll make another detailed video related to any questions that you have. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope your questions related to work allocation or requirement gathering is cleared. See you all in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.